Hi, and welcome to Real Conversations with Lisa and Susan. I'm Susan.
And I'm Lisa. Welcome.
Today we're going to be talking about economic development, and we've covered this theme before, but it is a theme that, for me, is endlessly fascinating, especially here in the capital region, where we are undergoing so much change, and there's so many people who are really working hard and enthusiastically to bring us to whatever we're going to be when we grow up, if you will.
Well, it is a transformation, I think, that's happening.
Yes, it is.
And I think it's exciting to be a part of, and a little, scary is not the right word, but a little like, oh, well, it's always been this way, and now it's going to be a different way.
Yeah, we're definitely shifting.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's been something that's been coming for a long time. I mean,
well, certainly talked about for a very long time.
You know, when did we start hearing the phrase Tech Valley? Probably 10, 15 years ago, maybe?
A little over 10, I think.
Yeah, maybe a little over 10 years. And now we're going to have global foundries opening in the not too distant future. And I'm constantly reading about, you know, different companies coming in. I think I read something in the Times Union a week or so ago about the rail lines that bring fresh produce in from California, and that they were adding another train delivery, which to me says something about, you know, where we are in terms of, you know, fresh produce, but quality and the demands for quality. And as, you know, they ratchet up, I think that shows that we are moving towards a, you know, what we talk about in our show is a better quality of life for the community.
And I think that's really an interesting angle, because we don't often think about all the ripple effect of something like global foundries coming in, or other tech companies coming in. Like, there's so much ripple effect where, you know, they're adding another train to bring produce in because it's you know, the number of people who live here increase, and all the different things, and many of them good, and some of them maybe could be, if we don't think about them and plan them, they could not be good.
Well, I think you've hit on something. It's the planning it. It's the planning it. And I read something, I read the paper a lot, but I read something the other day where we've got a greater concentration of high educated immigrants.
Yes, I read that too.
Immigrants, and what does that mean? And hopefully we'll have a conversation about that. And also I read that with the census numbers coming out, you know, within the last 6 months, 8 months or so, there's a trend towards people moving to urban environments. You know, whereas, you know, in the 50s and 60s, it was becoming more suburban. Now it's trending back towards more urban. And what does that mean in terms of, you know, multi-use development and things like that? So
yeah, so there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
and that's why
it's all connected.
Yes, and that's really what this show is about: is the economic growth and development. Where are we going? What's next? What can we expect? And the planning that's going into all of this.
And how is that going to change our lives?
Exactly, our quality of life. Yeah. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes with our two fabulous guests. Hi, and welcome back to Real Conversations with Lisa and Susan. Thank you so much for joining us today as we talk about the economic growth and economic development in the capital region. And we're very excited. We have two wonderful guests to be with us, perfect guests to talk about this topic. We have David Rooney, who is with the Center for Economic Growth, and we have Jonathan Scherzer, who is with Capital District Transit Authority, otherwise known as CDTA. So thank you so much for being with us, and welcome to Real Conversations.
Oh, thanks. Pleasure to be here.
It's great. David, I'm just going to start with you. If you could tell us a little bit about the Center for Economic Growth and what you do and how you're related to this whole topic.
Sure. I'll give you the Reader's Digest so we can get into the meat of the matter.
Okay, good.
Center for Economic Growth is a regional economic development organization. It represents 11 counties, so really the greater capital region, and it focuses on how do we do three things. How do we grow our existing businesses? What kinds of support can we provide to them so they can grow, whether it's a brand new startup business or an existing company who maybe has a growth opportunity? How do we attract new investment, new jobs, new job creation into this community, new wealth and really new development? And then really importantly, how do we prepare this region for growth that it perhaps hasn't seen in several decades. What do we do about land use and planning and education and infrastructure? I know Jonathan will be speaking a bit about that as well. So really growing new business, attracting new investment, and preparing ourselves for growth. Those are the three things that our organization focuses on.
And
Those
you're
are
in your
exciting.
specific
I'm one of the management team. I'm a senior vice president, and I work on the attraction piece. How do we go out and talk about this region globally? There's been a lot of investment that's taken place here. There's an awful lot of talent, a lot of tremendous R&D capacity in this region. So we go out and we talk about that to folks who would assign our strengths real value and who would assign value in being located here in this region. So my role is to focus on how do we bring new investment and attract new investment to the region.
That's great. And Jonathan, I think until I met Susan and really, not met, but we started talking about these topics, I never realized the importance not only of the infrastructure, but in particular transportation. So I really appreciate your perspective. I think it's going to bring a whole nother level to this. So tell us a little bit about what you do at CDTA and what you see how do you see the connection with this topic?
Well, it works well, particularly what David was talking about. David almost sets them up, and then we kind of take over from there because we allow the new entities in the area to be able to be serviced, to have a bigger talent pool, a better talent pool, and allow for a quality of life. CDTA has been operating for 40 years. We've been connecting the 4 counties, even more so in Saratoga after our last revamp back in 2007. So what our organization, the authority, does is connect people, whether it's to jobs, whether it's to quality of life experiences like going to Grafton State Park out, there are different opportunities across, whether it's installing infrastructure on Route 5 with Bus Plus that just launched in April, or doing some of the work down in Schenectady with the train station. The improvements that the country, the president on down are looking for are infrastructure based because they're cost effective in the long term. They allow the mobility, they allow, even if you want to push it into the green category, the ability to take out some of the emissions that have been coming from the proliferation of the single car driven automobile to commute and in and out and every day. So aside from providing connections for people, we're also a voice in mobility, whether it is the bus, whether it is running a train station, which we run 3 once we're done with Schenectady. It's different kinds. Multimodal, you talked about earlier off air, which is kind of where transportation is headed. So we're excited to be a part of that. We're excited to be a leader of that in the area, work with organizations like David's to make sure that the quality of life here is so desired that companies like Global Foundries continue to look at the capital region as an emerging entity.
And in terms of, you said that you're an advocate for mobility. What went off for me in my head was for the disabled. You have a very large disabled constituent base who could not do a lot of the things. They couldn't interact and contribute to society at quite the same level without the services that your organization provides.
What's interesting about the disabled community is there's a lot of American Disabilities with Act compliance that we have to go through. Lifts on buses, wheelchair accessibility in all of our facilities, and we take it very serious. Obviously, it's federally mandated as well. But we also find that the community doesn't want all the bells and whistles from time to time. There's a portion of the community that wants the ability to ride a regular route bus. There's a portion of the facility that doesn't want to get a half-price fare, which is nice, interesting, and refreshing to see, but we take that responsibility very seriously. Like I said, the federal government's also involved in some of the funding that comes for our services, and we also work to procure funds. There's New Freedom grants that we've helped some entities locally pick up funding and pick up vehicles. Schenectady ARC and the Catholic Charities have a couple of vehicles they use, albeit limitedly, but on the weekend to make sure that those lifeline trips still get to occur. So aside from advocating, we also assist and really our job is to provide the best quality of life given the funding that's available, the infrastructure that exists, and the job of somebody like myself, Connor, and the rest of our team is to be strategic and find new ways and new revenue streams and new opportunities for people to do business.
That's great. So let's talk about economic development and growth in this region. I mean, we all have heard about Global Foundries. There's a lot going on. What can you tell us about what we can expect over the next 3 to 5 years, not just with that, but in general?
Well, I'm glad you think about it in those kinds of windows because I think one of the biggest challenges we have as a region is understanding what are the kind of time frames it takes for the development that we're seeing already well underway to really begin to bear fruit. we've talked a little bit about Global Foundries. Global Foundries, the effort to try and recruit a semiconductor manufacturing facility to this region is well over 10 years old, and it's a significant period of time that you have to work from in terms of recruitment, and then the investment that firm needs to make, and then the return it starts to provide not only to its shareholders but to the region that hosts it. So. If in the next 3 to 5 years, you'll see Global Foundries ramp up its facility. It'll start production on what is now one of the largest construction projects in the United States. It's one of the largest capital projects in the U.S. It's a major facility. It'll have more than 1,400 folks working at the facility itself. That in turn will then have a multiplier effect of 3 or 4x. There'll be nearly 4,000 to 5,000 people in the supply chain and the services who provide support to Global Foundries directly. And then there'll be thousands more who come as an inducement, who come because of the opportunity that creates, whether you're a dry cleaner or a corner store or someone or a restaurateur. You're going to create those kinds of opportunities. And that's just for one company. So
should we be seeing an influx of new people for that? Will there be a population boom?
Boom is, I guess, how you define it, Susan. But you're going to see, we saw in the last census numbers that just came out a slight uptick in our population. I think you're going to continue to see an increase in our regional population over that 3 to 5 years, certainly throughout the rest of this decade. I think there's no question about that. A good example right now is that of the 400 people that Global Foundries has hired thus far, 200 of those folks are from outside of the region, and many of them from outside of this country. They're coming with very specific skill sets. They know how to build these facilities and operate them at a very high level, and those skill sets don't currently necessarily reside here. So you've got half of your current workforce that's been hired coming from outside of this region. They're actually coming from 15 different countries. So if you think about what that creates, what opportunities that creates for a region, it really looks at how do we assimilate all these different countries into a region that has been largely homogenous over the last 50 or so years, certainly. How do you welcome those different individuals and families from those different countries? How do you begin to understand what their needs and desires and wants are, and how do those reflect a more culturally diverse and culturally rich community? I think we're only going to stand to benefit from that over time.
What do you think the benefit, like the sort of day-to-day benefit or the benefit that might be just for the average person in this community?
Well, I think there's a couple of different things that can be accrued to a family, to an average family.
Like most American, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but I think most families in the region are thinking, will my taxes go down?
Right.
Will my job security increase? And those are really fundamental. And will the value of my home increase?
Sure, and those are all legitimate questions we have for ourselves as we sit around our dining room tables at night. So I think to answer each one of those, I want to say yes on each one of those, and I'll give you a little bit of a reason why. One is we'll be creating more and greater opportunities for careers, whether you're a new person starting out a new business or looking to work in new career opportunities that perhaps have been on the decline in the region, at the end of the last century. So you're creating a whole new set of opportunities that are in growing industry sectors that have a global reach to them. So that's going to create a new, I think, set of career chances for our young people, for displaced workers, for folks who've been underemployed or underutilized in the past. I think it will create opportunities for those individuals. In terms of the property values, I think as we look at the intelligent development in this region and not really think about continuing to sprawl out and just spread out and use our land rather haphazardly, but think about it in a more careful way, I think it will create more attractive development and more desirable redevelopment in our built environments. And I think that's only going to continue to drive up and first stabilize and then I think perhaps enhance our employment base.
What kind of coordinated action needs to take place for that to actually occur? Because it seems as though we have so many small governments here. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing with their own set of rules. I know we had Charlotte Buchanan on our show a couple of years ago, and I don't know if you know Charlotte.
Oh, I do know. She was one of the founders of CEG.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So her thing. Maybe 15 years ago, she came out with a paper about regionalism and how to grow the area regionally, and everyone needing to cooperate in that effort. And I don't know that has really taken hold enough to get this kind of coordinated development that you're talking about.
I think,
hopefully I'm wrong.
Well, I want to say you're wrong to a degree.
Yeah.
Look, we have 300 years of
You
French.
wrong? I don't know.
I'm a guest. I guess I can, you can maybe. We have 300 years of government structures that we inherited from the Dutch and the French and the British. And many of those were based on where can you get within a day's ride on a horse. So our town structures, those government structures, we very much inherited. And with them have come, obviously, centuries of layering. So now we've got many, many towns and villages throughout this region. The notion of trying to consolidate those to a degree where you're doing away with those townships really, in some instances, may get at the heart of it from a resident standpoint. You start to feel, well, this is how I assign value, how I associate with this town. This is my community.
Right.
But trying to find ways where they can collaborate and work
Right,
together.
and that's really what I'm talking about. Not eliminating them, but collaborating.
So we do some things at the Center for Economic Growth that help to support that. We have something called a local government council, where we've got members from 85 different towns and villages from throughout the region get together on a monthly basis, talk about the types of issues that are coming forward, and are there opportunities for them to work together.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and then we also work with CDTA. CDTA is one of our partners on something called the Regional Development Coordinating Council. Now look, we can get into all kinds of names for all these types of initiatives, but in essence, it's the folks who are involved in the infrastructure, the nuts and bolts, the mobility and the connectivity that Jonathan mentioned earlier on.
Critical components that make quality of life desirable.
Right, and that connect those individual communities. So we work with Jonathan and his colleagues. We work with folks from the transportation, from the Regional Planning Commission, other folks who are involved in how do we think about the region's critical infrastructure assets, National Grid, some of the other players. I think you get the sense of where we're headed with this.
Yeah.
So we talked to them about what kinds of initiatives are underway, what kinds of investments are planned by these individual organizations. How can we better tie those pieces together so that we're making intelligent investments and we're aware of what each other's doing so we're not duplicating the effort.
Yeah. Didn't I read on your website that National Grid sponsored a joint effort between CEG and the Lally School of Management at RPI to study just these issues?
Sure. National Grid's been a great partner of ours for many years in this effort of trying to drive economic development and transformation in the capital region. And so we worked with National Grid and a team from the Lally School, the business school at Rensselaer, to examine what industry sectors would be ones where we would have an opportunity. They would be growing and global, as I mentioned earlier, and where we had some strength, some assets, either in academic research or in company base who was already here, or in research capacity on a private sector that was already here, that we could potentially leverage to the benefit of this region. And so we looked at advanced materials, ceramics and silicon and other types of materials. We looked at information technology as an enabling technology. It's in all of our businesses, but as an enabling technology. And growing. We looked at nanotechnology, obviously as a next generation technology, which was going to be applied across many different types of disciplines and different types of businesses. Biotechnology and life sciences. So, and then the one where we've seen an awful lot of activity in the last several months is in the renewable energy sector. You've got General Electric building a new advanced battery manufacturing facility right in Schenectady. You have them locating their renewable energy global headquarters right here in this region. They already have their global R&D headquarters here. They've got a health imaging facility here. So they're a global company focusing in on some areas that we think are tremendous strengths and opportunity areas for the area.
One thing that I hear oftentimes is, this issue of workforce development. That's a huge buzzword now in terms of economic development, because we have to have a skilled workforce that is prepared to perform these jobs from these new companies, and if it's kind of like a chicken and egg thing, because if we have the skilled workforce, that's just one more reason why they'll come here in the first place.
Right.
So I know that you reach out to the academic institutions in the area, and we have a really strong network of academic institutions. But can you speak a little bit more to what do schools and colleges need to do in terms of partnering with businesses to really make sure that we have a workforce that is capable of taking on these jobs?
There's a couple of different real basic things that can be done, and then there are some very specific things depending upon the nature of the opportunity with a given company. So in terms of some of those basic capabilities. Obviously, there's a huge push now in science, technology, engineering, mathematics. I mean, there's an awful lot of focus on those STEM subjects. And so at a K through 12 level, how do you work with local school districts to encourage them in a difficult economy to continue to have their young people, their students, understand that there are sets of opportunities, emerging opportunities in this region that they can pursue as long as they stay focused and well schooled, if you will, in those sectors, so and in those subject matters. So how do you support that? GE's been a great partner in supporting that, and it's an area that we've focused on significantly in this region. Then if you think about what happens on a specific skill basis, interesting thing happening today actually up at Global Foundries and with in conjunction with the folks at TechSmart, which is the facility that Hudson Valley Community College is built right up at in Malta, adjacent to the Global Foundries site in Luther Forest. Today up there are representatives from 17 colleges and universities, all throughout the region, primarily community colleges, but not solely community colleges. And they're there visiting Global Foundries to get a better understanding of what are those skill sets, what is a potential curriculum that can be developed to encourage young people as well as folks who want to be retrained or the incumbent workforce who needs to be retrained. What are the skill sets that are required? What's the work environment like if you're going to work in a process line at a semiconductor chip manufacturing facility? It's not just what's it mean to wear the bunny suits in a very controlled environment over for an 8-hour or a 10-hour shift.
We should have wore those for the show
It would
today.
have been
At least
excellent
bunny
prop for us to be
ears.
able to go to. So that's happening today. So you've got career counselors, you've got engineering department heads, you've got presidents of colleges and universities, all up today up in Malta discussing those kinds of needs with Global Foundries. So there's the interaction between business and academia to understand these are the kinds of skills that we would find necessary for an applicant to come and speak with us. You take that back, if you so choose, and think about what your curriculum might look like in order to support that.
I just want to ask you something, Jonathan, because it's related but sort of tangentially. CDTA just did this huge investment with Bus Plus, which I would like to hear a little bit from you, like what was the thinking that went into that in terms of the relationship to this, and then what do you see as next for that whole area?
Well, in relation to what David was just discussing, we have a specific program called Project Empire, and it's almost the next step of that. It is people in vocational schools, people that do have some experience, some of our own people that work to gain workforce development exactly that way. Sometimes in our facility, but also sometimes us providing, whether it's a vehicle to a local learning school so they can have real-world experience. So those things happen beyond academia as well and allow the people that are already here to, even if it's not a Global Foundry scenario, to have a place at CDTA, have a place at OGS, DGS. There are all those opportunities.
That's great.
Route 5 and Bus Plus itself, it was 10 years in the making, very similar to the timeline David described earlier for getting Global Foundries up and at least into the area. Some federal investments, some stimulus investments that allowed for an understanding of infrastructure to be built. And the infrastructure building comes in partnership. It comes with DOT, it comes with the Central Avenue bid, it comes with the downtown bid, it comes with the City of Albany, the City of Schenectady, the town of Colonie. It's a multi-tiered effort because everyone understands the benefit of high quality infrastructure. And in particular, we have 18 stations that go each direction up and down Route 5. Route 5, for anyone watching who doesn't know it that way, is State Street in Schenectady into Central Avenue down into downtown Albany. Back when it becomes State Street again. Go figure.
Which is your busiest route, right? It's
Without
like your
question.
key
3.5
artery.
million transit rides last year. So the goal of what we're doing with Bus Plus is you take the federal funds with some state funds and some local funds, you improve the infrastructure. The infrastructure right now today as we sit here, they're adding a portion of a lane right by Wolf Road so that they can add a Q jump technology. A Q jumper is a light, a dedicated lane for the bus only. The bus will come in quickly, sit and wait at the light with everyone else, but then get a 6-second head start on the rest of the traffic.
Oh, that's nice.
So that is one of the elements that goes in with the infrastructure. The infrastructure that was put in includes high bandwidth cabling, includes a high-tech pylon next to a new station that when it's operational, which is not today, my IT department will be happy for me to know, real-time signs. You'll be standing at a Bus Plus station on Route 5, you're going to know when the next bus is coming. So 6 minutes from now, 12 minutes from now, maybe you go get a bagel, maybe you go get a cup of coffee or get your paper. But you're going to have GPS technology driving that. Beyond that, we'll probably also have some additional digital elements in the station. They might be artwork, they might be advertisements. We're working with some of the municipalities to improve the experience. So what workforce development / economic development occurs when you're talking about public transportation is we take the people to jobs. We take the people to the restaurants. And the ability, 70% of our trips, 7 out of 10 people, we did almost 14 million rides last year, are going to and from work.
Yeah.
That is developing the economy.
That's exactly
That
right.
is developing a quality of life.
Sure
And so
is.
when you put these new these new stations and these new shelters in with the technology that we know is going to be critical moving forward, it sets up well for other businesses. It sets up well for other families maybe to come and see what the capital region is all about.
It means we're a player, really. I mean, that's what I'm hearing here. I'm originally
really are.
from this area, and what I'm seeing is, hey, we're on the map. We're a player now.
And your viewers definitely should understand and appreciate that. This notion that this region has arrived, the level of awareness of this region has ramped up dramatically over that 10-year period.
And beyond Manhattan.
Beyond
yeah.
Manhattan,
Oh,
globally.
yeah.
I would
Oh,
suggest
that's
that's
great.
ramped
I
up
would say
globally.
too.
Yeah.
And that creates a whole new set of opportunities for us. It also brings a whole different set of a microscope on us, if you will. So the decisions that we make, the investments that CDTA makes, the initiatives that we undertake on a community by community basis, all are part of the due diligence of families who might want to locate to this region, as well as companies who might want to locate here.
Yeah. And
We are
stay
out of
here.
time.
People who will
Yes.
want to stay here
That's
rather
right.
than have to relocate.
That's right. We're out of time. It goes by so fast.
I
We're-
wanted to hear about the Schenectady rail station too, because that's going in new,
Well,
right?
we'll have to do that next
We're-
time.
Yes,
But
right.
what I want to
Working
know
with
is
Amtrak and
the-
Metroplex, but the thing is, Bus Plus connects right to the station. And when you talk economic
Great.
development, a new station, a new transit
asset.
route, which also allows for connectability from Manhattan up through Rensselaer when they get the 4th track, the connections, the abilities for people to get back and forth is going to be something they haven't seen.
All right. So
That's
the
great.
best place to get more information, CEG.org.
CEG.org, yes.
.org and
And
CDTA.org.
certainly the best
Thank
place.
you so much for watching Real Conversations with Lisa and Susan. We'll see you again real soon.